Now we come to the bit about his time at Eton, when it's time to graduate. And he wasn't allowed to graduate until he was actually in a theatrical production. And they take it very seriously at Eton. It's not like a couple of you and your cousins throwing together a little play for your grandparents. It's all very serious. It's Shakespeare. And they were going to do Much Ado About Nothing. Now, shout out to the genius director who cast him as Conrad. It's like, I don't know if it was an intentional slight. I don't know if it was I don't know if he just thought Harry would do really well playing this part because it was such a natural fit for who he was. But if you don't remember who Conrad was in Much Ado About Nothing, listen to this amazing description. Harry says, among other things, I learned from studying the play that it was wrong-headed and reductive to focus on Conrad's alcohol consumption. He was a fascinating guy, really. Loyal, but also immoral. Full of advice, but essentially a follower. Above all, he was a clown who provided much-needed comic relief. I found it easy to throw myself into such a role and discovered during dress rehearsals that I had a hidden talent. Being royal, it turned out, wasn't all that far from being on stage. Acting wasn't acting, no matter the context. I mean, is that not a bit of genius casting from this director? Full of advice, but essentially a follower. A clown who provided comedic relief. Amen. The whole world needed Harry. Shakespeare has been such an enormous success. It isn't because it's well written. It isn't because we care so much about Harry. It's because it's funny. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. And we all need in this time, in this world, like, this book couldn't have been written at a better time. We're so sick of thinking about politics. We're so sick of thinking about all the drama all over the world that this book is just comedic relief. He should have changed the name of his book. He shouldn't have called it Spare. He should have called it Conrad. Anyway, so he goes on to play this character, and he feels like he did a really good job. And now we come back to some more of him sliding paw. Again! He just finished giving us this long, drawn-out passage about how long he sat with Pa while they decided what his next step would be, and how Pa guided him and got him help to figure out something to do so that he could have adventures. We've just heard all about that. And now he talks about how Pa showed up, sat right in the middle of the audience, and laughed at all the wrong times. Guffawed is what he did. He just chortled and laughed and carried on, clapped at all the wrong times, laughed at all the wrong things. He acted like a complete and total buffoon. He ruined everything for me. There I was, so happy that he was going to be there, and all he did was just muck it up like he always does. Dim-witted dumb Pa, what a dud. He says that when the play was over, Pa came backstage and congratulated him, and he was a bit surly because he just couldn't get over the fact that Pa had just come and wrecked it. And he says that Pa asked him, "What's the matter, darling boy? Pa, you laughed at all the wrong times." He was baffled. I was too. How could he have no idea what I was talking about? According to Harry, it's like everybody in the audience was looking at him because they couldn't figure out what in the world was wrong with that old guy. Slowly it became clear. He told me once that when he was my age, acting in his own school performance of Shakespeare, Grandpa turned up and did exactly the same thing. Laughed at all the wrong times. Made a complete spectacle. Was Pa modeling his own father? Because he knew no other way to parent? Or was it more subliminal, more some recessive gene expressing itself? Is each generation doomed to unwittingly repeat the sins of the last? I wanted to know. Or I might have asked, but that wasn't the sort of thing you could ever raise with Pa or Grandpa. So I put it out of my mind, tried to focus on the good. Then he says, and this is so enlightening. He says, Pa's here. I told myself, he's proud, and that's not nothing. That was more than a lot of kids had. I thanked him for coming, gave him a kiss on each of his cheeks. As Conrad says, can you make no use of your discomfort? And that's what he's done his entire life. Tried to make good use of his discomfort. And he's tried to make money off of his discomfort. He's tried to get famous from his discomfort. He's tried to gain pity and sympathy and accolades from the entire world. He's tried to gather a following of people who can all lift him up in his discomfort. The greatest person in the entire world was the director who cast him as Conrad. That was an insightful gentleman, I must say. Okay, so he's completed his Eton education because he's been in some Shakespeare. And he says that it was no small feat for one so unscholarly, so limited, so distracted. And while I wasn't proud of myself, exactly, because I didn't know how to be proud of myself, I felt a distinct pause in my nonstop internal self-criticism. You want to know how to feel proud of yourself? You do things that are worthy of being proud of.